Batman 125. It is the start of a new run. Chip Zdarsky said that he's going to be on this book for years. And when I saw that, I'm like, please stop doing your nonsense. You don't have to announce nonsense that may not happen. Please. That's all it is. Why are you doing it? But written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Jorge Jimenez, Timon Moret, and Clayton Cowles. A backup, Two Birds, One Throne. Written by Chip Zdarsky, Balin Ortega, Luis Guerrero, and Clayton Cowles on art with that.
You think the Batman needs a backup?
No. I think that it's just to get some Catwoman in, which is odd because she does have her own book, and it felt weird, almost like you're fighting against Teenie Howard's book.
A backup of Catwoman with a Catwoman series that's already doing its own thing. And what we get out of this seems to be ahead of time for what the Catwoman's actually doing in her own book.
Yeah. And so with that, and also Valmont's coming in all sexy.
Well, no, that's like Valmont's already banging Selena. I'm like, that didn't happen in the book yet.
Weird,
what are you doing?
Because I don't know if he's just, that's like, oh my God, he was just making coffee. I don't know.
They're in their underwear. He's making coffee.
But you end up where this goes, and you have Chip Zdarsky jump on here. There's a couple things that I don't like what he announced beforehand, and I think people reacted too much to them. But the one thing is, I'm going to be on the book for years. Well, you don't know that. When somebody says that, that scares me, because then they start thinking, well, I don't really have to push the pedal to the metal because I'm going to have 100 issues. Now, I hope that that's not the case. But the other thing, Chip Zdarsky, I don't know why he had to come out and say, listen, this story is going to have Batman's doomsday. When you start saying stuff like that, people will push back at it. Oh, I thought Bane was already that. Oh, I thought this, I thought that. And when you end up with this by the end, you only get a cliffhanger. People are already reacting to this failsafe. I don't even know why, because we don't know what it really is, what it will be. I'm intrigued by the story, and I think that we do get some things that I like with Chip Zdarsky grabbing some things from the past couple runs, and even, maybe even some even further than that, and trying to maybe eventually tie up some loose ends, maybe make some things work out, things like that. And I am intrigued by that. Maybe we'll get Alfred back in this. Maybe we'll end up getting Bruce and some money back. All that stuff going on, and some characters like the Underbroker and the backup that I never thought would come about. But even the thing with Tim Drake, and I was wondering if you like Tim Drake as kind of the Robin here, if it's permanent, if it's whatever.
I love Tim Drake as the Robin. We're in his proper Robin costume here, and he is being the Robin to Batman's Batman. I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I want. While Damian's off doing his own thing, why not have Tim Drake in here be front and center? Because I don't care what anybody says, he is the best Robin.
Oh my goodness, I still think it's Dick Grayson.
Come on, at me, bro.
Yeah, ended up here where it starts off and Bruce is, dreaming. It says another time he's having this dream of, does set up that, this whole deal with fail-safe deal.
Robot
but
is
it's weird,
already
it's already going off.
Well, we talked about before the idea of what starts, the whole idea of the fail-safe robot. If Batman ever, it seems to me at least, if Batman ever crosses the line, he has his own fail-safe to take him out before he ever becomes weird, which is because we already have a Batman who laughs, so I feel like that would have already done something with this. But we've talked about previously where the personal perception has been that Batman has murdered somebody in the past, and maybe that's why the beep beep beeps were there until it finally just subsided.
I don't know. I even got that another time it might have been some sort of craziness, but with that you end up 3 Jokers. People saw that ahead of time, they flipped out. Oh, what a shame. It's a dream. You pretty much could figure that out. The Jokers have murdered
all of the Bat family. Bruce Wayne wakes up in a freaking sweat and a huff. Oh my God, I better call my ex. Like every man does. I had a nightmare. Don't call here anymore. We have a restraining order against you. God.
Yeah, really. And in that, he even says stuff like, I never dream unless I want to. I use my subconscious to piece together a mystery.
You and Superman. Well, never nightmare.
That kind of plays out in something a little later that I'll ask you about. But also, he's got some big junk in the deal there. Holy moly. And those boxer briefs or the tighty whities. They're actually brown, though. But he does call Selena. And he's like, hey there, Selena, what's up? And she's like, yeah, I'm a little busy with the Valmonts who...
What do you call me for? Don't you know, since you're the world's greatest detective, that I'm banging somebody else right now?
Yeah, the thing is, I don't know how that will progress in the regular book, because in the regular Catwoman book, he's a murderer. She doesn't like him. She's staying away from him. She's disgusted by him. So I don't know. We'll have to see.
Everything you just said to me, I was just going to lead to her bagging him, just like Buffy and Spike.
Thought the play was going to be a little misdirect.
So you're telling me in this scenario where Bruce Wayne can't see what's actually going on, what Chip Zdarsky's doing in the first issue is making us jealous for Bruce.
Maybe. I don't know. But you end up where he's there, hey, and she's like, oh, I can't talk right now.
Get off.
Valmont comes in and he's yelling too loud. hey, who are you talking there on the phone? You getting the takeouts? So you end up where he's like, all right, I got to go. And you have that set up. And it's weird because I thought that's all we were going to get with Selena in this. That we were going to go like, let's do a walking tour of Bruce Wayne's life. But she ends up coming back in the backup hard and heavy. But he ends up where he's trying to figure some things out and that there are, things going on and he's going to go. And I like this where, Mariko Tamaki didn't like to have Batman go around as Batman and punch people. And you get that. You get some action here. You end up having a pretty cool scene where you have a hostage situation. And Batman, we haven't seen him just come out of the shadows and just wallop a guy, especially when he sees that this guy has already committed murder. He thought he was going to go in and stop this whole deal, but this guy has already killed them when he sees, and these are people that he knew as well as Bruce Wayne.
Colin and Clara Fitzroy. And this almost comes off brutal. I can't tell you that I love the art in this, but I can't exactly tell you how much goes on here with the way that the action plays out, because Batman socks this guy, knocks him out of a freaking window, but also has him strung up for the police, stuff like that. But when he sees that, it's Colin and Clara, friends of his from, Bruce Wayne's life, not Batman's, obviously, he jumps out to the window, grabs a hold of this guy, and rips him down, and does that whole thing, right? Like hanging him over, like doing that whole thing that Christian Bale does, like, swear to me, kind of shit. Like, you pulled the trigger? Who hired you? Who did this? And that's when we get the idea that the Penguin is having his last laugh right now. And it's such a weird situation where it's your first issue, and not only are you going to try to make us jealous for Bruce Wayne about what Selena Kyle is doing in her spare time, but you're also going to kill the Penguin off in your first issue. One of my favorite Batman villains. I have a statue of him standing here right in front of me. Wah, wah, wah. And the first thing you do is murder one of my favorite villains. How dare you?
Again, and when I think that when he goes, he has him hanging there, and then
another Clayface.
Yeah, and he pulls him back in and starts, yelling at him and roughing him up and like, why'd you do this? Who sent you? All that stuff going on. And then you see Penguin, who seems to be announcing. And the thing is, it reminds me, it's this radio. It more reminds me of Ra's al Ghul, a guy who's like, okay, listen, I'm going to give you this. I'm mad about stuff.
I'm killing anyone in Gotham who's inherited over $5 million unless they give that money away to the people of the city.
And it's funny because we know that, he's not a self-made man. He inherited money, but he says, I'm not like all those other rich billionaires,
well,
those
also,
assholes.
His family on top of it did shun him depending on what background. Like, if we're just doing a post-Christ of like, he was brought into money, but they really didn't like him as much. Neither did the rest of the elite.
Still, though, he's telling Gotham, I'm not like them. I didn't inherit my money. He didn't. Batman calls him out on it.
You know what, Danny DeVito looking dude? I trust you, obviously. Because this is a very Batman Returns looking Penguin.
Yeah, and you know that everybody in Gotham, they're just awful. They were listening to the Riddler doing that stupid deal. And
well, also, freaking Penguin owns the best lounge / a casino in Gotham. Why wouldn't I trust his ass? There ain't nothing else to do here but die.
Penguin ends up saying, I'm going to start killing all these people that inherited at least $5 million. I'm going to go and get them. And if you end up, dying and leave it to your family, I'm going to kill them. You have to donate it. You have to do something with it. It really just seems that he's mad. He's upset. He says in a little bit that he's just pissed because nobody liked him.
Dusty Rhodes, the Penguin over here, the American dream.
Yeah, really. He's having sex with penguins. Nobody wants anything near him.
God damn it. Why is it that you loved quoting Tom King but don't like anything he writes?
We have a bunch of Tom King in this. And at the end, I'm expecting when Selena goes and finds these 10 kids, 3 of them are penguins. But he ends up where Batman's trying to figure this out, but you have Tim Drake there trying to be the light that he is, kind of saying,
Bruce,
listen.
Ever since you lost your money, you have barely been Bruce Wayne. You've just been doing Batman stuff day and night. And the idea is without the money, I don't get the invitations I used to as Bruce Wayne. But what I did get was this one gala over here. That the Penguin is going to strike out because he can't help himself, because all of the elite in Gotham are going to be here. So it's up to me and you, buddy. You and me, Batman and Robin, old school style. We're going to go stop the Penguin and save everybody's ass over here.
Yeah. And when he's saying that, he says, listen, I don't need to be that Bruce Wayne deal. This lets me be more the Batman. I'm doing the work. And Tim says, you're doing it too much. You need it for your identity or whatever. You need that downtime a bit. You need to have that Bruce Wayne time where you don't go out and try to, save the city.
The horse, Bruce. Come on.
Also, you got to remember that Alfred died and maybe deal with that and stuff like that as well as just, the money and things like that. So Batman just is like, and in a little bit, it keeps going because he doesn't go to see Tim in the hospital from what ends up happening. But he says, I'll use Bruce Wayne for this. I'm going to go to this gala. Bruce Wayne can still get an invite to that. And you have Tim. And I like Tim being the smart kid, kind of saying, well, why would they have this? There's no way they'll have this. They're going to cancel it. No, they do this nonsense. Like these people don't cancel.
I'm telling you, this whole idea of this book, where I'm telling you, I actually do enjoy this take that Chip Zdarsky has on the Batman here. It is a very cynical Batman, though. It's a very dark, almost Miller-esque take that he has for the Dark Knight right now. Because even when Tim is talking, like, why won't Gotham cancel this? Penguin has already put out a threat for all the elite. It's like, it's not the hardest part of this job, that the city wants to die.
I kind of like that, though.
No, I'm telling you, though, it is cool, the idea, but like that is a very cynical Batman who has given up, it seems like.
You know what I like about this? I like, and with some characters, with some situations, I mean, some that you should be continuing. He doesn't have the money that he did at one point. He calls Selina that. But it is a thing where a lot of these people, a lot of these recently deal, Tom King ends, Tynion comes in, and you almost are like, well, that Tom King stuff doesn't, it's not going to be that involved. We'll go. This actually feels like a Batman who has been beaten down by all of that nonsense. I mean, if you hated the Tom King stuff with Bane, you feel like that has beaten him down in this. You end up having all the stuff going on. All of them. I mean, Fear State, that's the thing. When he says the city wants to die, they keep having problems. And even in that, throw in Detective Comics, even after all that, and you could play it off as saying, well, Marika Tamaki didn't know what she was doing, whatever. But
says you, that city wanted to die there too, or Mr. Worth's going to kill everybody with bazooka because his daughter was killed.
When you're playing it, why not treat everything almost, seriously, because you should. It's in continuity of this city. I am fighting for the life of the city, and it doesn't want to live. Like everything I do, Bruce is the one without money. Bruce is the one who gets the crap kicked out of him.
I still don't know why he's going to be Batman, because it's a losing battle no matter what for him now with that state of mind.
Yeah, with that, though, I think that he's there too, and I think Tim's there to get that light back, maybe to get that spark back. And then I think that Batman thinks that at one point, like, I got to teach the city to not want to die eventually before I'm done. But he ends up going off.
That's the weirdest part, because even if you talk about, everything feels like it matters here and it's really hit home for Bruce at this point in time, you just even start out that Tom King thought he wants to die. Is this a good death after? Because all I want to do is die good.
I think that Chip Zdarsky is doing it a little different. Like he's mentioning the idea of this city just wants to die. But he doesn't. I mean, that's why I think it's a better take than Tom King did. Tom King wants a suicidal Batman that just has had enough. I think that this Chip Zdarsky Batman will never have enough. He just is pissed now. Eventually, you're going to talk. It's like one of those things you're trying to help one of your buddies, and you're going to be positive to him. But when you go home and talk to somebody else, you're like, this asshole, he won't even get it, whatever.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I got that feeling, and I got the feeling of him trying to get
Jim
all
Warner,
of the different deals.
I was talking to earlier today. He's just a goddamn mess.
Exactly. You're like, this guy keeps bitching and moaning about not feeling good and does nothing about it. Like
every day he wants to tell me his life story. I'm like, calm down.
Here. But yeah, when you go and he's like, okay, I'll use the Bruce Wayne again, and he goes up, but it's for a deal. And I like this too, because it's just
Bruce
a little
bit disguise to get in.
Yeah. And it's a little subtle deal, but I love the fact that we finally get a Bruce Wayne that isn't duped. He actually knows exactly. Now, overall, he's being duped. But in this, he knows exactly the MO of what the Penguin would do, what they'd end up.
The Penguin's going to be here no matter what, and he's going to use gas. So, Tim, I'm going to go in here as Bruce Wayne. You go in as Robin, and you either check this part over here, and if it's not over here, it's going to be in the boiler system, because I know that the Penguin is going to use gas to kill everybody. Okay, I found it, Bruce. Here's this gas extinguisher, like this gas tube with an umbrella attached. Yeah, that's the one.
Yep, and you can laugh, and you could say that, oh, Jim, that's idiotic, because he gets duped, like we said, but most of the people reading this issue end up having one big problem. It's that the Penguin goes a little off of what he usually does. This doesn't feel like the Penguin. That's why I think it works. This is something with the Penguin setting up a murder and killing himself. Nobody's going to think that, even a Batman.
I'm telling you, this needs to be retconned somehow, and I can't think of a decent way to do it, because even the idea where we have the Penguin show up here, like at the gala, and tell everybody how they're going to die, and then Batman stopping him, we just find out that it's a Clayface, impersonator of the right? Like, Penguin knew you'd be here. That's why he hired me to do this, and the other thing. And the idea, when you have the Penguin dying in a hospital room, he set all this stuff up to kill all the elite for his own little last laugh, and for then Batman to show up and the idea that he is seen at Penguin's bedside when Penguin gives himself a cyanide pill and ends up dying right there. And everybody says, "Oh my God, the Batman killed the Penguin." It is the last laugh of the Penguin for his own death scene, and this is the legacy that he wants to go out on. I need him to come back somehow, because this can't be the last bit for Oswald Cobblepot. But how do you come back from this?
Well, they ended up talking about the deal
Another
that it didn't look
Clayface.
like because he's mercury poisoned. He ends up then they say
Too much tuna.
he's going to die that night. He's not going to survive the night, they say.
Did you like the idea that it's mercury poison, though, just because he's eating too much fish?
Or the sardines that he's all that nonsense. It got him. It would.
Thing is, I'm worried about that, too, for some reason. I have no idea why.
Yeah. So when he does that, it's like one of those like last deal. Well, I'm going to die in like 3 hours, but screw it. I'm going to screw you. I think that's badass. But even before that, you end up in this gala. They end up, solving all these deals, and Tim Drake gets shot. And it's very similar to, Nightwing getting shot. Dick Grayson by KG Beast in the Tom King run.
A regular goon just shoots him in the throat.
Yeah, he ends up getting him, but you get shot in the throat in an artery, you might die. And so he ends up having to take him to the hospital again. It's kind of a funny play because I mentioned Legends earlier. That's something that happens in Legends. You end up having Jason Todd get the crap kicked out of him, and he has to go to the hospital. And there's that whole idea of, oh my God, I might end up, going with secret identities. Still, that's the one thing that doesn't jive with me here, because you end up having Tim Drake get shot, Robin gets shot, Batman then is supposedly kills the Penguin, and it seems like that's the case because, he did that because he was mad about Robin getting shot. Out of nowhere, they just think, we'll take Robin's uniform off and just have, how many people are getting shot in the neck? This is a gala. Everything
Gotham.
is reported, but it's reported. There's no way that people aren't going to say, okay, yeah, that's Robin. But you play with that. Even when Batman's walking around, it's a badass look where he still has his suit on.
For some reason, I'll tell you this, the
belt.
idea where, Robin brings in Batman's utility belt and hides it like above the bathroom tile work and stuff like that. But the idea that you have Bruce Wayne showing up and for him to become Batman, he just takes off the suit jacket, puts on a cowl and has a utility belt. That look of Batman for some reason with just a white button-down shirt and classy slacks. For some reason, this looks amazing. I have
it
no
does
idea
look
why.
amazing. It does look amazing, but I think that, where is Sandy, his date? I think that looks like Bruce Wayne. She's dead, Eric. But yeah, you end up where Clayface is
I feel bad
impersonating.
because I never once thought about what happened to Sandy.
Yeah, what happened to her?
My boy Tim Drake was shot in the throat. Now, who gives a shit about Sandy? But now that you bring it up, I'm like, how did she get home that night? Did she have an Uber? What's going on?
She got killed. She connected things too well. You end up, though, with Clayface. You have that deal where Clayface is impersonating the Penguin at this point, and you do end up having Batman say, listen, well, another time that I was around you, I ended up making this thing that will blow up. I ended up, it's almost like a Suicide Squad thing. Doesn't really work well too much with a Clayface, but I guess it's like some formula that he put in, and he might be lying. It might be one of
totally
his things
lying.
that he's
This
bluffing.
is the idea. He's bluffing because Clayface shows up. He's like, I injected you with a formula I've been working on to turn your clay into something more explosive. You couldn't have. Try me. Save these people and tell me where the Penguin is, or I'll blow you sky high.
And that's the thing. If Clayface is smart, he's like, but that wouldn't save the people then. They'll blow up. But I like the idea that if he hit that, what do you think that is? What is that trigger there?
It's nothing.
Does he just have a dummy trigger? He has it's just a prop that he has, and then as he's leaving, he gives him a lollipop.
It might be for something, but he's not attached to anything or activated anything, so it's just a dummy switch.
I just want him to hit it, and all of a sudden you see this garage door open downtown. It's just some stupid deal, but he ends up doing that. That is the dupe there. But when they get to
and like
the
you
hospital,
said before we actually got on the idea of with all the continuity, it would have been nice if we added in the idea of not the last time we saw him, but when he was a part of the Gotham Knights during Detective Comics run that James Tynion did. Because the idea, Clayface, Basil Carlo did break our hearts a little bit because he became a good guy. He's working with Batwoman, Tim Drake, Spoiler, and the rest. And now he's just back to being a bad guy. I'm like, Clayface, you came so far just to fall back down. You were a second chancer.
Yep, he was a second. I think that would have been a smart play for him to do that, to go with the idea of, hey, Clayface, when you were part of the Gotham Knights, when you were in the Detective Comics deal with me, I knew eventually you were going to go bad, so I did this. And that would be a hard-hitting thing for Clayface. That would be really? You didn't think that I was going to be good? Almost like he'd be so upset about that.
Even the last thing we saw him, besides for that weird lead into Dark Crisis where he was trying to steal a freaking mother box that was on display, the last time we saw him was saving Alleytown with Catwoman in her own book, dressed like Slam Bradley.
So you end up where Batman has to take Tim to the hospital. Tim's very worried about the identity.
And put him back in his civilian skivvies because we can, and I actually like this part really much. With he's going to go and blow it all. It's like, all right, we're taking you to the hospital. We can't get to Leslie Thompson in time. We can't get anywhere we need to be in time. I got to take you to the hospital because you can die on me, and I'm not having another Robin or another son die on me and stuff like that. And Tim being the voice of Batman, being the voice of Robin, and always you put the mission first, kind of Tim Drake here, you will lose everything. I am too close to Bruce Wayne for this not to make a connection here. You freaking, you're not taking me to the hospital. If you do, you take my costume off.
And yeah, Batman thinking, with Jason and oh my God, the mission was always first, man. And you're seeing that maybe he's going to change. And with this, I really wish though, you have 3 panels there and enough on that side that you could have even had the deal where you also mentioned Damian or even Dick Grayson getting shot in the head. I mean, this has happened to each of the Robins. They're like that, and they've had very similar situations.
I'm pretty sure I've seen Flamingo shoot Dick Grayson in the back of the head.
Yeah, that's
Batman.
what I'm saying. I mean, just recently that you could tie it into what's going on. You could have those panels directly. You could see Damian getting the sword and all that, where Batman could say, the mission is really, not the greatest. And he knows this, but this is kind of him realizing. But I do like this next deal because you turn the page and you end up having what looks like it's like, yep, Tim Drake, he gonna die. He ain't gonna make it tonight. Oh, it's actually the Penguin, and there's Batman with him. And Penguin, it's kind of sad. I don't feel that bad for the Penguin because of what he's doing.
He's got shit all over his face because he's a goddamn hot mess.
He's like, I can't catch a break. And that's we said about the idea that, oh man, people always treated me like shit. They never invited me to the table per se. But the idea also is, I think, with Penguin, like,
jerk, Oswald.
I did, yeah. But even then, look at me. I made all this money and I fought all that. Now I'm dying because I ate sardines. Like, that can't even help me. My money can't help me now. And I like when he's like, look at you, Batman, you billionaire. I'm not a billionaire. Oh, yeah, well, what do you have, a sugar daddy? You do too much things without, you have to have some money. And he ends up saying, like, eventually, you were going to be the last guy. But time's a ticking, and he does end up taking a cyanide pill to make it, as he calls the nurse. And that's a pretty cool last play. It's pretty badass for the Penguin. It's a shame that he's dead. But I said at one point, and I said, as we get towards the, December when Dark Crisis ends, if we start seeing a lot of deaths, that something's up then. Something of a reset, reboot, something at the end of Wishing Machine. I don't know. Something that'll drive you nuts of that. But I wonder what the play is here because Ra's just died. We end up having Oswald dying. Like these sort of things, we'll have to see how it plays out. But it is shocking, and you would think. But again, remember we had all these theories, like not even theories, but we said, "Oh, Ra's had to have had a plan here." He didn't.
I'm trying to remember how things played out because even back in the day with the Joker's last laugh, when the Joker thought he was dying, was going to have this big shebang kind of thing, like taking over everybody with Joker venom, and so like said it was. I can't remember how that ending. I'm like, maybe he just didn't have a brain tumor and that's how it ended. But like, whenever you have this big, this big ending for a villain, this is the last thing they're going to do to be their last hoorah and make Batman look like a piece of shit. That's fine. But for some reason, whenever you have that, then it's always less when the character then comes back or you find out it was a dupe or something along those lines. And you can't have somebody in my mind who was one of the top 3 Batman villains to say, all right, fuck it, I'm going to die now.
Yeah, and a guy who's kind of, he can't catch a break. He's getting shot in the eye by Jason Todd.
No, he's not. Look at him here. His eye's fine.
Oh, I know. Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that he'll be fine after Dark Crisis. We'll have to see what's going on.
Didn't
But
he
I
also
do
have his throat slit by Deathstroke.
Yeah. We had all these things going on. This guy's pretty resilient. So, cyanide, mercury poisoning. I do like the idea where the nurse
keep
comes
a good
in.
Penguin down.
Hey, you called us there, and I just like the question marks and the exclamation. Oh no, where Batman's trying desperately
somebody just
to go.
saw Solid Snake, and that freaking
I'm
sensor
telling you,
went off.
I love it. I should have had that for the sound effect because it made me laugh. Like, oh man, Batman's like, oh crap, I am
so much for my stealth game.
Oh my god, and yeah, that again. That is the Penguin being smart, but Batman at this point, he's a little off. Tim Drake's in the hospital. I really did like that.
Penguin got you, Bruce, you big dummy.
And the funny play is kind of Chip Zdarsky playing that deal of, what makes a good Batman? Would it be better if, and we've had plays on this, we even have with Jason Todd and stuff, and even I Am Batman did it recently. The idea of Batman's oh man, Batman doesn't kill. Like, oh my God. Now the word on the street is, and it's one of those where Batman actually says, crime's down, which is good, but I didn't want this shit. I don't want to be a killer, but
even the way he
down.
talks about it so nonchalant, he almost seems like, because he even says his narration here, how he's lost. But when talking to Oracle about like what's been going on, Batman's a murderer.
He hasn't gone and seen Tim.
You haven't gone and seen Tim Drake in the hospital. But the way he talks about like, technically things are okay because crime's down because they think I might kill them now. I'm like, oh, that's a weird thing to think because
it is
like working on the superstition and cowardly lot, the whole thing that you play on, you also don't want them to cross that line because while I guess, villains to this point and to have realized that Batman won't kill, he won't cross that line, so we don't have to worry about that. And this doesn't feel like something that the Batman would actually want.
Well, that's the thing. I think that he's trying to make excuses up like, well, I know it's not a great thing, but at least the crime's down. You know, hey, we got
even
that.
He says here, I'm fine. Penguin grossly overestimated the damage that it would cause. If anything, it's helped. I'm like, oh.
And then he says, I'm lost, which right after he starts, I think that that's the play. I think he's trying to convince himself, hey, maybe this is okay and whatnot. But the big play here, what it looks like is that he has set up his own contingency plan. He has set up a thing. And I like the play here that you have the Batcave that's been abandoned. You end up having the mansion abandoned. So with that, nobody would know that this has been activated. They're not there, and it does activate. And I like the idea of a contingency plan of that, but I just want to know what it's set up for. I said to you, like, what is it, TMZ reports? Because Batman, even in the Detective Comics, it was put out, oh my God, he might be a murderer. He was the last person that saw this girl and that girl. So you kind of have to look past that.
Maybe he's Bruce Wayne was the last person that, not Batman.
Maybe. I'm telling you, you have to kind of look past that. But one of the funny things that I thought, not funny, but one of the things I was thinking when I was reading it the second time is at the beginning, and I said I'd get back to it, the idea that he's like, I fight things in my subconscious. I use dreams to fight things. And this actually reminds me of that Zoran R. Batman that Grant Morrison had in the RIP, where
wasn't a fan.
I know a lot of people didn't like it, but
a lot of people did love it though too.
If he was compromised mentally, this other persona would come out and end up taking over and was just a badass, being miserable and whatnot. But
here's some Silver Age nonsense that breaks out in your mind.
This kind of reminds me of like the next phase. Plus, I like this idea that Batman is always doing stupid shit with AI and robots and things. He's always messing up. I love
this. This does feel like the play here, where if anything happens, where Batman has created a contingency plan in case he ever crosses the line, where this robot, the failsafe, will take him out in case. But also, I was talking in the Slack earlier this week before I'd read it, people were talking about it, so I had no real context. But it might also be an idea where Tim Drake knows the Titans of Tomorrow, where he eventually becomes the Batman and crosses the line and becomes a bad guy. Maybe Tim Drake set this up for himself in case his future comes true. And that's why Tim Drake's actually in this series. Because you remember, his Batman would eventually then become Savior, as we saw before.
That's cool. And and with that, I like I said, I like some of the plays. Like if you sit there and some of the other things of the idea, if this failsafe would be the normal deal, usually maybe Kal-El would come in and say, but he's not there. He's off planet. He's, all these things going on.
Batman has all of these briefcases full of the weaknesses of all his Justice League teammates. This robot just happens to be his own. He can't count on his asshole friends to take him out. He's got to do it himself.
Well, I want that to be the deal where they find out about this and like, man, we had some good moments when he said that we were the contingency plan for him. It was always like that. Hey, well, I'm Superman. What is the contingency plan? You are my friend now. No, it was. It's this. But maybe you'd even have it's like beep boop, Superman off planet. But then we go off to the backup, which is the Catwoman deal, and it's dealing with the Penguin's death and his will and things like that. And you do have Chip Zdarsky bringing a lot of stuff, especially stuff that seemed to be heavy on that first arc of the Teenie Howard Catwoman that we like. So I actually
got the crime families of Gotham coming out of this whole thing, like Ico and stuff like that, and even the idea of Finbar Sullivan now that the Penguin's gone is like, look, I ain't fucking around. I am taking control of the Iceberg Lounge. This is my new place. Ico's freaking Yakuza, like samurai show up. We're going to take control of this place. And Catwoman is stuck in the middle to the point where the underbroker and his executor of Penguin's will, a robot man, have to show up and say, look, 7 days we'll read the will. Until then, you can go fuck yourselves because you ain't taking control of nothing because my robot executor over here, he'll kill you.
And I like Finbar there. He says, well, I don't think that I'm one of the people that would be in an actual will. When that person does get the stuff, can I kill him? Are you going to be there to take it over? And they're like,
as long as I get my job done, you can do whatever you want afterwards.
He's just a robot. And he's like, all right, yeah, you could do that. And he's like, all right, I'll be back in 8 days. So like, you tell who get it. I'm going to come and kill him. You can let him know because I'm coming back and killing. And I kind of did like that. I don't know that I like the executor. It's kind of goofy, this whole
He's a robot
AI
man lawyer.
robot. Who do you think ended up making him? Is it a Lex thing?
No, it's Professor Ivo.
You think that it's just he couldn't pay his bills? Yeah, so you have all this stuff going on. And it's okay. I mean, it ends up tying a lot of the current deal. And I like that when we see this, he's paying attention. It's just weird that you're doing this that almost overshadows Teenie Howard's book right now, but this actually feels like that first arc, which we really like. So I don't mind. And yeah, you end up when the executor comes to Selena Kyle and says, you know what? I need you to help me. I don't know. He says, I can't just go around and I'm a robot. And I like the idea.
I don't know if you noticed or not, but I'm a robot.
He's like, I'm a robot. But then he goes, listen, I was going to get paid for doing this, but what am I going to do? Get robot pants and Sunny D? I don't have any need for this money. You take the money.
$500,000.
$500,000. It means nothing to him. It's nuts and bolts, Eric. We're all screwed. He ends up saying, you go and find these children of the Penguin. That ends up being, I mean, obviously it's a scavenger hunt, but we'll see. We'll see what that does.
You think
I don't know that we need it.
The executor is like, with Quietus from Silencer's book with Leviathan, where he just used to be a man, but now he's a freaking robot man.
Yes, I think so. I don't know.
He's just like Quietus.
He ends up saying though that the underbroker says that he ended up somebody couldn't. I don't know. He's kind of weird though. I mean, I don't mind him.
Money. He gave me a robot man. He's a lawyer.
Don't make the guy a 12-foot robot lawyer.
I'm telling you, the thing is, I look at this guy and all I think of is that 90s wrestler Erwin R. Shyster, IRS from the $1 Million Man, because the gigantic tax man with the big guns.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the case. He takes off that coat and he doesn't have sleeves. He's going to be there.
He's got suspenders and no sleeves because he's a badass. But I will tell you this, the idea of hunting down the 8 illegitimate children of
is it 8
Mr.
or is it
Cobblepot.
10?
Oh, is it 10? Okay, for some reason I have 8 in my mind. Yeah, 10 people he needs to find that are the children of Oswald Cobblepot. One of them better be Ethan Cobblepot, the black son that we saw in the Batgirl series previously.
Well, yeah, and so it's funny too because as you said that about the IRS, I also thought of in The Simpsons when Homer was watching the wrestling and you had the Iron Yuppie who was going around with almost the same exact deal, but even with that, when you have, I like the idea where there's the robot and he says, listen, Cobblepot, that guy liked to get busy. He ended up saying, where he goes, apparently Mr. Cobblepot was a rather beloved gentleman because he's a robot. He don't get it there.
I love you, robot. You say the nicest things about gross stuff.
This is almost like the idea that I almost think, and I don't know that we're going to get the executor in all these issues or whatever, but I want him there. I wish that he was going with because I think he could be the breakout character that we ended up loving, like Quiet.
I just don't know why we need this. I know maybe it doesn't work for Teenie Howard.
But he's like Small Wonder, Eric.
But I don't know why this couldn't just be the Catwoman series to be a tie-in series with the Batman book where they were going off and doing this. But maybe it's just because Teenie Howard wants to do her own thing.
Well, even then, how about this? Take it the other way, which is weird. The idea that Teenie Howard comes on, and a lot of times it seems that the books aren't pitched. Teenie Howard just gets hired. We have a story for you. You tell it. And then they realize, wait a minute, Chip Zdarsky wants to do something in the backup with these characters. So all of a sudden go off with Harley. And maybe it did end up making that book take a swerve so you can get this. But it is weird. You're almost giving, Teenie Howard the shove off to have a more important and cool Selena Kyle Catwoman story in this. It is very odd in not having it in the regular book because then you sell 2 books, Eric. That makes sense.
I'm telling you, right now, the thing is, this is the Catwoman that I want to read and a backup to Batman, only because the last 2 issues with the Harley Quinn, books of the Catwoman series have been awful.
And they've been awful. I mean, the first part of her arc, 4 issues or whatever it was, were good. But then it ended so suddenly it ended, and then you get awful things. This is good. I like this, but it is a shame.
But
it's a shame that you can't have it over there.
It's a scavenger hunt, and you know how I can't stand those.
I know you can't. Boy, I wish that
the Black Sun, Jimmy.
I wish the executor. I wish that he was going with her. It'd be so great. It
would be good. He could be the new breakout sidekick character that we always wanted.
I think he would have been. It would have been just like the robot. I mean, right there you have the robot lawyer. You can't go wrong there. And just the idea of him trying, because he's very much if you ask him something, he's not going to cut corners. He has to tell the truth. And just it's like the Terminator trying to get him to, you gotta no lay low. Oh, it'd be so cool. Oh my God, breakout character. But what would you give this?
I like this a lot, even though it's a more cynical Batman that I was not even that I'm not used to, but I didn't want through all the stuff that we had previously because I just want this whole idea where we can get a Bat family heavy, like, oh, I
hope
love
we
you, man,
get
kind of situation. Because I just want to have a hopeful kind of Batman. This is a lost, cynical Batman. It threw me off first, but I think the storytelling is spot on. I get my Tim Drake back. I get a badass Penguin plot, and I get something hopefully cool out of this, and a better Catwoman than we've seen in our last 2 issues of our own series for the last 2 months, and 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going 8.5. And with that, I like the idea of the cynical Batman just because we have only had Batman being beaten down. You can't just start a run where, hey, look at me, everybody. I'm a happy guy and whatever. I like the play of we might get there eventually, and I think we will.
But I've been saying that since Tom King's run.
I mean, yeah, but even then, when Tynan came on, remember what his play was when he came in? It was, I'm going to have all this tech, one thing of tech each deal, and I'm going to expand with all sorts of villains and stuff. It never felt like, oh, we're going to have the hopeful deal. We wanted more Batman. That was more of the deal because of Catwoman being pretty much the one that was wearing the pants. But in this, I like that Chip Zdarsky comes in, and what has happened, some people didn't like the last couple of years of Batman, and that's beaten him down a bit. And he does feel down. His money's gone. All that. Alfred's gone. He doesn't have Alfred to kick him.
But it's also beaten me down as a reader, and I was hoping for something a little bit more hopeful.
Again, though, I think that it was a little bit in this where I like that Tim Drake's there. Yeah, he gets shot.
He is the light. I still enjoy that.
And so you have that. I like Batman, but even if he's cynical, he actually punches a guy, and you actually have him doing some things. Because when we say Batman, I'm also including Detective Comics in there as well. So yeah, I liked it. I actually liked this 8.5 for me, and I think the art in both of the stories is really, really good.